Welcome to America This Week, United We Stand. We're in the final stretch of 2020 as Americans prepare for the holidays during a pandemic. There is some good news. Both Pfizer and Moderna are seeking emergency approval by the FDA and hope to start distributing their vaccines by the end of the year. Joining me now is White House Coronavirus Task Force Response Coordinator, Dr. Deborah Birx. Great person to have. Doctor, thank you for joining us. I see you wearing your mask. Very important. Doctor, tell us, I think Dr. Stephen Hahn, the administrator of the FDA, was called to the White House to be questioned as to the timing. Can we push some of these approvals quicker, and where are we? Give us a most up-to-date timeline, if you will, on getting these vaccines to the general population.
Great. Well, great to be with you again. And I think you can see what the FDA is doing is really analyzing the data to look for protection in all age groups, races, ethnicity, as well as I think they're looking very carefully to see if there's any partial efficacy after that first vaccination. That kind of information is really critical, be critical for the ACIP decision making when they make their final decision. I know they are going to provide interim guidance to the CDC, but as they make that final decision, knowing if the vaccine has even partial protection after the first shot becomes critical. And so I think they're going through the data to really analyze and make sure that every American that is eligible receives the right vaccine, and that's why they're taking their time.
Dr. Birx, I think a lot of people were concerned about, okay, so the CDC makes a recommendation, the Coronavirus Task Force makes a recommendation, but it ultimately comes down to each individual state. Do you think the states should adopt the CDC recommendations of giving the vaccine first to frontline healthcare workers and then to the most vulnerable population, likely those over, 75, 80 years old?
I think each state has to look at their current circumstances, and that's why I talked about what does the vaccine do after the first shot? Because if there's partial protection after the first shot, then usually you don't go from 0 to 94, 95%. Usually there's some interim number, what we call point prevalence efficacy of 40, 50, or 60%. So I know that's being looked at, and that becomes very important for the states when they make those deliberations. Certainly, our frontline healthcare workers have been amazing, and I think you can see that our case fatality rates have been going down month after month because of the incredible care that they're providing. And we know that they become potentially exposed both in their communities and while caring for patients. So certainly we want to make sure that those who are working with COVID patients are protected. At the same time, states need to look at where are their vulnerable individuals? Are they in long-term care facilities, which we know they are, but are some of them in multi-generational households? And I think that's really going to be the question for each state, to really understand who's being hospitalized and who unfortunately is succumbing to this virus, and use that to help make decisions on who should be prioritized after healthcare workers.
Dr. Birx, I'm a mathematician by trade. I spend a lot of time crunching numbers of all sorts. It took us somewhere around 8 weeks to go from 1 million cases to 2 million cases, and it only took us about a week to go from 12 million to 13 million, which means we are experiencing a geometric increase in cases, not deaths, but cases. My question is, with the vaccine coming out now, within a few months, we may have a certain percentage of the population vaccinated. Another percentage of the population will have antibodies. How soon can you guesstimate, are we at a situation where we could experience herd immunity as a country?
Well, thank you for bringing this up, because I want you really started out correctly. The surge that we're seeing now is deeper, involves more of the country, and has lasted longer. And that's how you end up getting into these geometric increases in cases, which are leading to increasing hospitalizations and will lead to increasing fatalities. And we know that that's the sequence of events. We know that we don't have a chance to get to herd immunity until we're at 50 or 60% of people with antibodies or vaccinating. We're probably not even close to 15% of the population having been infected. That leaves 80 to 85% of the population still vulnerable and at risk to this virus. And so then you're talking about how do we get 40% or 50% of that 85 million vaccinated. And we're not going to screen for antibody. we're going to vaccinate without pre-screening. So you're really talking about how do you get 60% of America vaccinated as rapidly as possible.
Okay, Doctor, about a minute or so, less than a minute, just any question in your mind when given that opportunity to have your arm stuck with a vaccine, are you going to go for it?
I have zero question. I've worked on vaccines and clinical immunology my lifetime. This was a straightforward vaccine for development. It's very similar to what we do with hepatitis B, and people have been vaccinated for years. We know what the critical antigen is. This is presenting an antigen in a unique way, but in the same way it's your body making that immune response to that particular protein. We know, and we know from the data of over 70,000 plus people immunized with this similar platform between Moderna and Pfizer, that it has no significant short-term side effects.
All right. Dr. Birx, always a pleasure having you on. Our show is better because of you, and the country's better because of you. Thank you for your service to the country.
Thank you.